In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to receive a customer payment. Now, before we can receive a customer payment, there has to be an invoice that's been created for the customer. So I'm going to take this opportunity really quickly to create the invoices that we're going to use. And so I'm just going to make one for myself. And let's just make up some dates here. Let's say it's due. We used to have a wonderful option here. Oh, here we go. To due on receipt. So that way I don't have to sit here and change the dates. We're going to pick a product or service. And I just want to hit save. And then I'm going to create another invoice because I want to demonstrate receiving multiple payment or a single payment for multiple invoices. I want to demonstrate receiving an overpayment, receiving an underpayment as well. So let's pick some options here and let's just make it interesting. All right, so I'm going to save and new again. And then let's also create a really old invoice that's really past due just for fun. So again, we're waiting for this to save. It's just taking a little minute. But again, I want you guys to see everything multiple times while we're going through this QBO training, because repetition is the key to really understanding how to use QuickBooks Online and to help you go beyond just being a button pusher in the software. So this one's going to be due on receipt, and we're going to say this one's, we just missed one way back here. All right, so now I'm going to save and close. Okay, great. So now we have some invoices outstanding for our customer, Buckaloo and Associates. Now, we have several ways to receive a payment. We can go New, Receive Payment, and if you know the customer name, that's really simple. You just put it in, and now all of those open invoices are going to show right here. If we didn't know the customer name, so let's just back this out. But we had an invoice number. So maybe they sent a check and maybe there's a parent company involved and there's a different name on the check, but they listed the invoice number. Then we can search by invoice number and we can find that invoice 1040. And what's nice is it pulls the customer in and it also shows you the other open invoices. So that's great. Now, let's say you didn't have the company name and they didn't put the invoice number on the check, but let's say the check was for $86.40. That would be a little harder to find because we'd have to know that that's two invoices being paid together. However, if the check was for $43.20, let me just show you if I had to hunt and investigate to figure out who this payment might have been from. I might go to transaction search and just search by the amount of the check just to see, oh, okay, these two invoices pulled up for this one client. There's a good chance that this payment is for them. Now, if the check had been for $86.40, not so helpful, would have matched me to the wrong invoice. So we want to take it with a grain of salt. Our job as bookkeepers is to investigate a little bit. Sometimes things get tricky and sometimes we can figure it out on our own and sometimes we just can't. So the other option that we have, again, if we're trying to hunt down who did this payment come from, we could go look at all of our overdue invoices and see if there's any for the exact amount. And you might have noticed these two here and been like, oh, that could be it. We also want to check our current due ones as well. But again, this really helps narrow it down if we're looking at just our open invoices to see if any of these make sense. Now, I mentioned there are several ways that we could receive a customer payment. So I'm going to show you now going to the customer section and clicking on Buckaloo and Associates as a customer. Each invoice has the option here for us to click Receive Payment on the invoice. And again, it's still pulling in all three invoices, even though I clicked on a single one. You also can get there from New Transaction, Payment. So again, I don't know why we need 36 different ways to receive a customer payment, but hey, you have them all. So let's pretend that today the client is making a payment. And by the way, there used to be an option here where you could type the today I don't remember the code. There is a cheat code here. I'll have to look it up and I'll include the link below, where you actually could just type like T or today and it puts today's date in here. So there's some cool keyboard shortcuts in QuickBooks Online. All right, so we're going to assume in this first example that we paid by check. We always want to deposit to undeposited funds. Now for this first example, I'm going to show you what it looks like if we have an overpayment. So I'm going to do $200 was the check received. And you can see that the amount to credit here is going to show for $6.20 because the customer made an overpayment. That might sound weird to you. You might be like, well, why would that happen? Well, trust me, it does. People type in the wrong number. They just have an issue, like an error that they make, a manual error. So I'm going to hit save and close to demonstrate what this does. So when the customer makes an overpayment, it's going to create a credit on their account. You have two options if you have a client credit. One, we can refund the $6.20, so we could issue a check to the customer to refund that balance. Or if we know that the customer is going to make a future purchase, then we can leave that balance on their account and apply it to their next open invoice. So let's just demo that really quickly. So let's say we create an invoice for our customer again, and this one is going to be due next week. All right, and I'm just going to save and close. So now the open balance is showing as only $37 because we have a partially paid invoice. Now, this is a feature or a setting that I like to turn off in QuickBooks. You'll notice it automatically applied the overpayment. Instead of letting us choose to apply the overpayment, it just automatically did it here. So I am not a fan of that setting. So if you go to the gear icon and account and settings, we want to go in here and we want to turn off that setting. And it might be under advanced. Let me just find that here. Here we go. Automatically apply credits. This can make such a mess of your books if you have automatically apply credits. Because if we send lots and lots of invoices to a single customer and we have lots of credits, we want to exactly match in QuickBooks the way that they are trying to apply their credits to their invoices. We do not want to just apply them willy-nilly. So turn off this setting. That will save you a lot of mistakes and issues. All right, so I'm going to turn off that setting. We're going to go back to the customer here. And you'll also notice I'm not showing the, so I'm going to grab this invoice here and see if we can edit this. Because I want to take this payment here and I don't want this automatically created and I don't want it automatically applied. So I'm going to go to this receive payment and I'm going to uncheck this box and I'm going to save and close. So that way the credit should still be showing when I go back to the customer. Go back to Bucklow and Associates. Okay, so our invoice now is still showing as $43.20 and our $6.20 credit is showing here. So then when we receive this payment, let's say the client sent another check and they forgot to use their credit and they sent that check for $43.20. That way we can leave this unapplied credit sitting here on the account and just hit save and close. So again, credits can make it get a little bit tricky. So you can see we have this credit here. Now I am going to do one more invoice and I just want to show you what happens if the client underpays an invoice. So we're just going to use the same example over and over here. So we'll save and close. Now let's show what happens when they accidentally typoed and they sent their check instead of for $43.20, they sent it for $42.30 and they don't want to apply the credit yet. So I'm going to unclick this So they've applied a payment of $42.30 to an invoice of $43.20, which means that they owe a little bit more money on that invoice. All you have to do is type in the correct amount that was received, because we always want to do the actual number that was received, not the amount that the invoice was. And then when we do that, what we're going to see is that this invoice is partially paid with 90 cents due. And again, here we have this $6.20 credit sitting there. And that might seem weird not to automatically apply those payments, but trust me, you want to make sure that your record keeping and the client's record keeping is the same. So you will send them a statement showing, hey, we need 90 cents on this invoice and you have a credit of $6.20 here. So that way they can process both of those transactions on their next payment.